We're back here from Borio's 8891 McDonnells Parkway in Cicero, New York. Here with Rob Drummond, played for Syracuse, the last undefeated team. The team that was going up against the number one ranked Nebraska and beating Nebraska. The team that was going into bowl game up against the SEC and beating the SEC until the end where they tied the game back when you could tie a game and there was no overtime. So the Rob Drummond Syracuse era is the last best era. We hear about Jim Brown, we hear about Ernie Davis, we hear about Floyd Little, and this man didn't wear number 44, he wore number 36. But what Rob did, and what Michael Owens did, and what Don McPherson did, and the rest of this team did, is you built a brand of football that is so important and so crucial that now, as we sit here, almost 30 years later, the team is yearning for the days that you had and wanting to get back to the moments that you got to hoist each other up.
You know, for us as players, all we thought of ourselves was just blue-collar workers. You know, we went out there and we worked just as hard as we possibly could to learn and understand the game and just do the best we could. We had no expectations going out there, but to just do the best job we can, because for us at that time, success was just, you know, and just in, not in your accomplishment, but in the effort you gave. So we worked as hard as we could in the classroom, we worked as hard as we could in learning our plays. We worked as hard as we could in the weight room. We worked as hard as we could in the football field, just to become better athletes, to become better people. You know, we got along as a team. You know, we didn't read the press clippings, so however good they were writing about us and things of that nature, we didn't care about that. All we wanted to do was just keep getting better each day, and that's what we did.
Before we get into the next position, which is one you know all too well at running back, I want to go into something you mentioned. You didn't read the press clippings.
No.
What can you say to the current players at Syracuse and wherever you may be, you know, gentlemen and ladies that are playing the sport, any sport, what can you say to them about how they should proactively and productively react to the media?
You know what, the media is funny, and I've sat there before myself personally, and I've interviewed and I've given stories before, and then the next day I read it in the paper, and it was completely taken out of context. You know, so you can get upset, you can get mad, but you know, it's just like ringing a bell. You can't unring a bell. So sometimes, you know, it's tough for an individual to be able to go out there and say, it's like, you know what, I want to be careful what I say to the media, because it changes who you are. I always say, it's like, you know, as long as I am myself, that's all that matters. It's like, you know what, I can't make everybody happy. I can't be the best football player in the world, but you know what, I can go out there and just be myself and say what I have to say, and that's who I am. If you like me for who I am, great. If you don't like me for who I am, that's great also. But it's like, you know what, keep your distance from me. So these players, whether it be male or female, should just go out there and be themselves. Don't try and be something that you're not, because eventually it gets exposed. So if you go out there and you give a bad interview, at that point, you know, try and avoid that reporter. You know, and just tell the reporters, it's like, you know what, that's not what I said. You know, this is what I said. This is who I am. So it'll get to the point where if enough stories get written about you, people understand who you are and understand, you know, what you're about. At this point now in my career, people understand who I am and what I'm about. No one can truly write a bad story about me, because I don't try and hide anything who I am. I am who I am. I don't try and hide from anybody. So all these athletes are trying to go out there and get the perfect story, just avoid the media. The media could be your friend, it could be your worst nightmare. So just go out there and be yourself. That's the best advice I can give them.
When it comes to going out and being yourself, one of the identities of Syracuse throughout history and occurring now again is the running back position being that big, needed, necessary, and I'm not going to call it a crutch because that makes it negative, but it is the place where Syracuse can lean a little bit. They had Jerome Smith, and with Jerome going on to the NFL, you still have Prince-Tyson, you still have Devontae McFarland, who got some reps last season, George Morris II, who got reps last season, Adonis Ameen-Moore, who's gotten reps throughout his career, and then you bring in another guy in Irvin Phillips, who's had some nice showings at camp so far. So we look at another core group of guys where there are multiple opportunities out there, 5 different running backs that they can use at any given time. I want to start, before we go individual, at the identity of this running back core. And since you know the position so well, how would you define Syracuse's running backs right now?
It's always interesting throughout the years and throughout history. You know, you look at colleges and you look at universities, and Penn State was always defined at linebacker university because of some of the best linebackers in it. Shane Conlon, Trey Bauer, all came out of Penn State. And then you look at Syracuse, the running backs that came out of there, Floyd Little, Larry Zonker, Ernie Davis, Michael Owens over there, Terry, just the running backs that came out of Syracuse. And Syracuse is defined as a running back school. Syracuse, these guys just really, for me personally, thinking from an outsider looking in, but who's an insider looking out also, just stop trying to be the greats. Just go out there and be yourselves. Yes, you have a huge, past to live up to, but stop worrying about living up to the past and just basically go out there and just be yourself. You can't recreate, history. By that, I mean, you can't go out there and be Ernie Davis. You can't go out there and be Floyd Little. You can't go out there and be Larry Zonker. All you can do is go out there and be yourself. McFarland, ameen-moore, Tyson Gully, all they can ever do is just go out there and be themselves. Stop trying to be the greats and just go out there and be themselves. Set your own identity. One of the reasons I didn't get 44 at Syracuse, or I had no intention of getting 44 at Syracuse, because I didn't want to be someone from the past. I wanted to be my own self and create my own identity. These young men have to go out there and create their own identity and be themselves. Yes, when it's all said and done and history is rewritten and it's wrote, they can sit there and say, wow, can we compare themselves? I'm compared. I'm the third leading yards per carry average rusher in the history of Syracuse. Ernie Davis and Jim Brown are the only two ahead of me. For me, I can sit back and look at that now and be like, wow, what an accomplishment. But when I was doing that, I wasn't trying to do that. All I was trying to do was get first down. I was trying to average 6 yards per carry so I can get a first down for my team every single time, because first down moves change. That's all these young men have to go out there and do. Just be themselves, play relaxed, go out there and play football, and stop trying to live up to the grades because we think they're great anyway. Just play football.
Prince-Tyson Gully, he's now at the helm of everything. He is at the top. Jerome has moved on, as I talked about, so now it's Prince-Tyson Gully to lead this thing up. He's proven that he can be one of the best receivers on the team. He's proven that when Terrell Hunt or any quarterback is in trouble, they can check their downs and find him somewhere. He's proven that he can run in between the tackles when they said he couldn't, and he can also be the finesse guy and beat you on the run. When you look at Prince-Tyson Gully as the man that is
the man, pretty much.
The man that's going to take the majority of the carries quite possibly here, what can you say about how you define a team that's going to be led by him as he steps into this role for the first time?
Looking at that young man, the one thing that really comes to fruition for me thinking about him is the simple fact that, he leads by example. He's not the rah-rah type of guy. He doesn't go out there and be the most boisterous, the most loudest player on the football team, to get his guys, up and ready to play the football game. He goes out there and with his play, he leads by example. It's the same thing I did. I didn't have to be the loudest guy on the team. I didn't have to be the captain. I didn't want to be the one you notice most. But when I stepped onto that football field, my players noticed me because I led by example. It didn't have to be a long run. It could be a block. It could be a simple thing as catching a pass. It could be a simple thing as running a play hard, knowing the ball was coming away from me, running a defender off. There's so many things you can do as a football player to get your team motivated, and I think that's what Prince-Tyson Gully does very, very well.
Devontae McFarland, George Morris II, they split time. They have both played so well in the eyes of DeAndre Smith, running backs coach at Syracuse, that he can't say which one's going to be that second guy. What can you say about George and Devontae? And we'll start with George. What does George bring to the table? Because I'm going to give my side of it, but I wanted to let you know. It's
hard to separate those two young men. They're very shifty. They both hit the hole hard. They both can catch out of the backfield. They're both about the same height and size, and they're very, very good friends. So to separate those two is very, very difficult because they're both the same type of backs. And I think they both bring to the table where the only thing I can think of that separates those two is that you can always have a rested person in the backfield. You take Tyson Gully out of the backfield, you put one of those young men in, and they'll do the exact same thing as the other one. So both of them to the table. I just think they're in a position where they have two talented backs, but the one thing they're very, very good friends, and they push each other. But they give Syracuse a dynamic duo, behind Prince-Tyson Gully, in the backfield. And next year will be very, very interesting with those young men, vying for the starting position because one's going to have to get it next year. But right now we're talking about this year.
George Morris has shown that he can return kicks. Devontae as well.
They're both very versatile. Yes.
So when you see the versatility on the return game, you see that they can come in and score the football. One thing I noticed from George Morris that seems to come up more often than not that I saw in his high school film is that this is a man who is not a big, huge power back from how you look at his frame. But if you hit him,
he's very physical.
He has ballet feet, but a strong body. And what I mean by that is you can hit him and he can figure out a way to stay in bounds, but he's not going to fall over.
Yes.
So he has kind of the blessing of both to have the finesse and this, like I said, almost dancing style.
He's a great low center of gravity.
Right.
What we were saying in the training.
Where he can get hit and keep going. And there was one thing he did in his high school film that I wouldn't be surprised to see him do it again because of his ability to stay in it. Obviously, it's something once you got it, you got it.
Yes.
And it was when he was hit by the sideline, and when he went back, one foot was up in the air, the other was up. He brought his foot over the defender, had one foot in front of the defender, one foot behind the defender, stayed in with the football, and came around. And when you see a guy like that, you have to get him on the field. DeAndre has mentioned that he loves what he has, he loves what Devontae has. But another guy they've been trying to get on the field is Adonis Ameen-moore. They asked him to lose some weight. They said it's amazing what he can do on his toes when he was bigger, but now his frame is smaller. He looks the part to me right now, and we already know that he's talented. If you had Adonis Ameen-moore on your team right now, what do you want him to do?
You know, it's hard to say what you want that young man to do because the young man basically was an odd man out last year. He didn't get much playing time for one reason or another. You know, as we're saying right now, it could have been because of weight problems, weight issues. You know, that's behind him in the past. But here's a young man right now with all the talent in the world that's hungry. And as a coach, that's what you want. You want a young man that's hungry with all the talent in the world, all the explosiveness in the world. Bowling ball basically hard to bring down. You know, now he's lost weight, and now he's in probably the best shape of his life. That's a young man who's fighting for time, who's real good time this year. He's going to make a huge impact in Syracuse. I think he's going to be the X factor for Syracuse going this year because, as I said before, it's people who don't understand the desire, the hunger, the passion of football players. And when it's taken away from you for a year, and now you come in the best shape of your life, and now you got this hunger and desire to go out there and prove the naysayers, prove the doubters wrong. It's going to be interesting to watch that young man play this year.
Adonis has his way about him where he's so humble, he is so positive, and then when he gets on the field, he'll kill you. And you talked about how when you played, you know, I know that you're a nice guy. We're very good friends. You know, we've built a friendship over the last 3 years. But when you talk about football, you know, you murdered yards. And that's almost what you see in Adonis, this very soft-spoken, how are you, sir? I hope you have a good day. Let me open the door for you, man. Let me take those bags for you. But once he's on the field, you can't get him down on the first try.
Like, you can ask any teammate of mine. It's like, you know, I was the nicest guy in the world. Would hold door for ladies, would, you know, open the car door, whatever. You know, when I stepped onto a football field, if you have a different colored jersey on the side of my, as opposed to me, it's like the best scenario I can put it to was like it's like the old Rocky film when Ivan Drago was fighting Apollo Creed. He knocked Apollo Creed down, and Apollo Creed was dying, and they looked at him and be like, no, he's dying. To me, I was the same way. I was like, you know, if he dies, he dies. You shouldn't have tried to tackle him. You should have just let me go and score a touchdown. And that's just how it was when I walked into a football field. When I walked into a football field, if you had another jersey on besides me, I was trying to kill you. And that's just how I approached the game. You know what? After the game, I would let these guys give my hand clap and say, you know, what a great game. But during that game, I was a killer. And that's how I had to be.
When you look at how you were going in, I mean, we talk about Adonis being hard to tackle, but do you see anyone on the team at the running back position right now that's had a killer mentality?
That's hard to say, man, because the game's changed so much. Back then, I had a fullback mentality. You can look at Gerald Johnson. We had a fullback mentality. We were attacking. I would have been just as good as a defensive player as I would have been an offensive player. You know, if they'd have put me on defense. They always used to say I had a linebacker's mentality playing running back. I had the ability to play running back, but I had a linebacker's heart and I had a linebacker's disposition. You know, so that's hard to say. These guys are very, very talented. They're very light on their feet. They should be in the hole and things of that nature. You know, I relish contact. I look for contact every single play as much as I can. These guys trying to avoid it. Avoiding contact wasn't my nature.
You would almost slow down to let the guy catch up to you to hit him.
Just so I could punish him, just so the next play he would think about twice about hitting me. And that's what, I don't see this in these guys, you know, but that's not to take away from their ability. They're great, you know, great backs, great talented back, but that's just the mentality. The game's changed so much, so it's hard to compare myself to somebody today.
The last guy, speaking of young men, the youngest of the bunch, Irvin Phillips, comes in as a true freshman. You never know. Are we going to redshirt this guy? Is he going to be on special teams? Is he going to get any reps? Then he goes into camp. He breaks a couple big runs. He shows that he can catch out of the backfield. And now there's that maybe. And when he was coming in, DeAndre Smith had said that to me. Hey, Dan, I'm not going to count the guy out until I watch him practice. I see what he can do out there. What do you think when you know that there's Prince-Tyson, Devontae McFarland, George Morris II, Adonis ameen-moore, is there a place for Irvin Phillips, or with him being a true freshman, do you almost want him to wait a year and then go out?
You know, that's very hard for me to sit here and say, not being in every single practice at SU right now. But for a young freshman to crack the starting lineup, it's very, very difficult. I mean, as I said before, he's got a mountain to climb. He's got so many talented running backs in front of him right now. And it's not just one, it's 2, 3, 4. Guys in front of him. So it'll be very, very tough when we crack the starting lineup. Maybe he can get on special teams and contribute to his team also. But for him to crack the starting lineup, maybe get playing time with those talented running backs in front of him, it'll be a tough task.
When you have the head coach talking about you as a true freshman, like Scott Schaefer has brought up Irvin Phillips, he can talk about 90 different guys, more than that. So when you look at all the guys that he has on his team, for him to specifically say, Irvin has done X, Y, and Z, and I liked it without being asked, what does that say to you about the talent Syracuse is bringing in, that the head coach is saying, hey, this true freshman guy is not bad, and he's kind of making me think about it?
I mean, that just looks like Syracuse is really preparing himself for the future, but then it could be a head coach also speaking, just to get other teams, and Irvin to get the fans excited. So you don't know where the head coach is headed even saying that. I mean, but I trust Scott Schaefer enough to where he say that the young man is talented. So it just bodes well for Syracuse going into the future with these young running backs.
That coming from a former Syracuse running back himself, Rob Drummond, with Dan Tortora Broadcast Media, Rob Drummond of Raps, the new system that you will be seeing when it comes to recruiting, there will be no other system. It's already a system that works stronger and better than anything else. Make sure you check out Raps. You can get information on wakeupcalldt.com where you are right now, and you're also on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. We're live from Borio's, 8891 McDonnells Parkway in Cicero, New York. Open every season, every single day of the week except for Monday, and of course that Sunday brunch that you can't miss out on. Rob Drummond, Dan Tortora, we'll be back. Wide receivers up next.